very careful.
All right.
There it goes.
There we go.
We're good?
Yeah.
Now it is going.
All right. Welcome everybody to the August 14th Marion County Commission meeting. Begin with public forum. Any public comments? If there's anyone online, unmute your microphone. Not seeing any. That'll be the end of public forum. Move into agenda approval. I would like to add a very short section at the end on road and bridge for administering grants. We have some road projects with grants that we'd like to discuss with the commission how to proceed. Other than that, any other changes to the agenda? If not, agenda is approved. Move into administrative. Tina.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. We don't have sales tax. I guess I didn't get that off of your previous one. Sorry. I do have the minutes from August 7th.
Okay, commission has had a chance to review August 7th minutes. Any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Gehring. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carried 5-0.
Okay, we do have some change orders.
Yep. All right, next.
Okay, we do have an early check. In one of $255.45.
Okay, questions on the early check?
What was that? Was that employees?
No, it's a reimbursement, so sometimes we'll receive something from insurance and then we'll have to pay it back for some reason. That was from the ambulance department, so.
Motion to approve. $255.45.
Motion by Commissioner Gehring to approve the early check. Second.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Crowfoot. Any other questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carried 5-0.
Load it up.
All right, we have one salary change, new part-time 911 dispatcher, Courtney Hayes, $18.36 an hour, effective 7/31/2023. Welcome aboard.
you had received an ad, I believe, or just a draft advertisement or flyer for the county administrator position. And so I just wanted to see if you have any feedback for me to provide to,
Looked pretty good, minus fill in the blanks, obviously, that you highlighted. So, looks pretty good to me.
Looks good to me. I would like to address one thing that I think might be valuable to put in there. Communicate effectively through local news outlets and social media.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Any objection? We got board consensus. Any other suggestions? All right, Tina, appreciate it. It's very, very well done.
I thought it was very well done.
Yes.
Covered everything that I think we talked about.
You got a limited space.
Yeah.
Limited-
okay, I made that note. I wanted to give you an update on the architectural RFPs, the pricing. So every firm except for Landmark confirmed that phase 1 and phase 2 are standalone amounts. So if we do phase 1, we pay for phase 1, we are not obligated to anything else. If we move on to phase 2, we pay for phase 1 and 2, and we're not obligated for anything else. When you get into phase 3, which is the detailed design plans, that's when you start with the variable rates, and it's based on the estimated construction cost. So for that detail, and that was the same. That was that way with all the firms.
Very good. Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
As far as the grants go, does it have to be detailed, or is it just a layout?
Depends on the grant.
Okay. I knew the one she was talking about, so I just didn't know. If one way or the other.
We'll move into the actual selection when it's on the agenda item.
Okay. That's all I have for administrative.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the tax sale update with our county treasurer. Susan's
See
ready.
if she's.
Sure you have to get the report. You know, the facts and figures.
Yeah. Run them all
She's
down.
on her way over.
Awesome.
I'm not sure that's not the highest dog tax sale, is it?
Good afternoon.
Susan?
Hi, Susan.
Save you a spot, Susan.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Well, congratulations, a major milestone accomplished. Tax sale.
The tax sale, it went very well. It did. Let me share some information. There should be one for you to, Phyllis. Just take a clip.
Take a quick clip and
Take
pass
a
it
clip
down.
and pass it along. I'm trying to find out what we how much money we brought in the last tax sale, and I'm still working on that, because I'm really curious about that.
Not very much.
Because we take all of our money up to district court, so, excuse me. But this time around, you can see we ended up with $54,000, which
Wow.
I don't remember it ever being that much before.
Great.
And we sold the severed mineral rights. Can you believe that?
Sold them for a
Sold them.
couple $100.
I know one was, two of, I think were for 50, and then two for 50, one for 350, and one for 200. And then Kita is ready for the next one if you so desire. She would be doing 2018 and 2019. Because we did 2017 and older, and so then we would do 2019 would qualify for the tax sale.
Or are we gonna do this every year in December and then push them through to basically August? Wasn't that kind of the goal?
The only problem I have this time of year is that it gets confusing because she was mailing out letters, one last letter, and then we were mailing out letters for the unpaid 22 taxes, current year tax. So the only thing about the timing is that it same time as those current tax letters. So some people were really concerned and they were calling and, you know, you can't take my house, you know, and so I think it was confusing for some people to have both those letters come out at the same
So
time.
if we made it more of a regular annual thing, when would we do it? I mean,
That's a good question, because if you look at the calendar, there's no really good time,
okay.
you know. But if she starts now and it does it maybe a little bit earlier, instead of August, maybe do it, you know, June or something like that, that would help. But we can see how this goes. A lot of it depends on the abstract and how many problems he runs into and how long it takes to get all that sorted through.
How many would you have for next time? Do you have any?
That's a very good question. I wish I knew the answer.
Maybe we won't have.
I'm sorry, excuse
A
me.
big list like that this time.
It wouldn't be like this.
Should this be half, maybe?
If that. Because this really cleaned up a lot of taxes that weren't
Could you
included.
mail out the notices on different color paper than what we use for the county? I mean, so it look different?
I think when they get something from the treasurer, they just are unsure and freaking out.
I think that the policy that you passed has some specific timing included in it. And I think that the December timing was specifically chosen because of some information that you need to have. To
So
be able to.
stick with the schedule that we have in
Well, I
place.
think it would be good to maybe at least pull that policy out and review it
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
you
And I'll
decide.
have that all ready for you next time, the policy and some other information to help you decide. But they came in and we had to help, you know, there were some of us that had to help. But they, you know, they had their ducks in a row. They knew what they were doing, and whatever problem arose, they were able to resolve, and it worked out pretty well. The Lake Hall worked perfectly for it, which I knew it would, because she was kind of concerned, because they've always done it in a courtroom.
Small room. Huh?
Yes, and I told her, I said, that isn't gonna work. So, we had a lot of calls from people, and we did this pre-registering, and that helped a lot too, because most people did that.
Yeah.
That saved time on the other end at the lake.
Very good.
So, I think overall it went very smoothly. Tina, do you think the same thing, that it went well?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think.
I guess what I'd ask the commission at this point is a direction on county treasurer's question is whether we want to proceed with 2018 and 2019.
Yes.
I guess I would ask if the commission is in favor of doing that, and then we can work on the timeline consistent with our previous action. Is that agreeable? Someone want to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Becker to proceed with tax sale on 2018 and 2019 properties and be consistent with our previous timeline policy. Is there a second?
I'll second
Ty, okay, Commissioner Crowfoot, discussion?
I'm asking questions about tax sales, but not pertaining to this.
Okay, let's go ahead and
Yes.
take the vote,
Yes.
vote, and then we can follow up questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. Question?
Just one clarification,
Yes.
is that, are you proceeding with the same law firm? Is that part of the motion?
It wasn't.
Commissioner Becker made the motion, would you?
I would include to go ahead with the same law firm.
Okay.
Let's wait and see how everything's spelled out to us. We haven't seen none of the paperwork back or nothing.
Even as far as selecting a firm to do it.
Yeah, let's see what comes back to us. I'm very interested in seeing
Okay.
how the paperwork comes back to us and charges and see what the total charge is.
Okay, so then how do you proceed?
Yeah, you
You
can't
don't have someone to
proceed
do
then.
it, so maybe then,
Well, maybe the paperwork will get here before long, I mean, within a time frame,
Well,
30 days.
Okay.
She's talking about the motion.
I'm talking about the motion that you
No.
just voted on, I don't know
Yeah, we
quite how to.
voted on motion to go ahead and
Implement that.
Right.
and move forward
And
on
really-
2019.
And that really,
You want to
that
take?
really doesn't change anything, because it's just directive to go ahead and start gathering the stuff and make sure it's all ready to go.
Can I get that?
And get bids. What you
Yeah,
want.
yeah, I think that's,
I guess
Yeah.
it would be, it'd be pertinent to ask if the fee structure remains the same.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm anxious
Because,
to see what-
if all of a sudden we have a big change in fee structure, we probably need to rebid it. Is that what you were kind of alluding to?
Some of that, yeah.
Okay, then my understanding is we leave the motion as it stands. We want to pursue the 2018 and 2019. But we're gonna need more information before we
Yeah.
actually select the
Make
firm.
her select, yeah.
That's fine.
Is that?
Yes.
You can work with her and bring us back information if she would keep the same fee structure. And we review the information.
We'll wait till you see what this
Sure.
costs, I mean.
Yeah.
We haven't seen nothing yet, have we? Have we paid anything yet?
Yes.
Yeah, what did we pay?
Go ahead.
I don't have that
Good.
information
We've
in front of
paid
me
the-
today, I'm sorry.
We've paid the appraiser. Haven't we paid the appraiser?
I'm not sure what you mean by the appraiser.
Okay.
I can gather that information and we can talk about it
Yeah.
the next time if that works for you. Do you mean the abstractor, the title company?
Yes,
Yeah,
not
title
appraiser.
title
I meant
company.
abstractor.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
Yeah, and then see what their fees is gonna be, but.
sure.
I see we raised, like you said, you got it 54,000, I just went through my list and I knew it was over 50. Where's that money go?
Well, it goes through the judicial system process and then it goes to pay, well, I mean.
Cost of sale first. I mean, and yeah, as Tina was saying, it runs through the judicial process basically in terms of how these were filed. So everything will pass through the district court in essence, and what happens in terms of the priority categorization under the statute, cost of sale come first, and that includes any cost to the firm that did this, abstractor costs, any other costs of bringing title to a point where a sheriff's deed can be issued. I don't think I didn't ask them, but if they do it as they do in other counties, sheriff's deed is usually something that is required to be provided by the winning bidder. Some counties actually issue them,
I
but
believe we issued.
do we issue them? Okay,
Yes.
Harvey County does not. And I just went through that. I had several that were presented to me where they said, you go do your own deed, which I find a little backwards. But again, in this area, there are several counties doing it that way, so I had never asked these folks.
No, because they paid for the recording and the
As part of
deeds
this,
office
okay.
got all the
Yeah, we'll be
information.
issuing the deeds.
Yeah,
For the
which
deed.
they don't in those counties where that occurs. You
Yeah.
go ahead and do that separately on your own.
Is a sheriff's deed considered a quitclaim deed or a general warranty deed?
It's not a general warranty deed. It only covers, the sheriff's deed is different than a pure quitclaim deed in that case it's just, here you go, whatever it is you got. With the sheriff's deed, we are, because of the process, saying there's a number of forgiven elements to this in terms of delinquent taxation and certain other liens and fees that were listed on the property and running with it. It comes free of those. And so with the sheriff's deed, you will see that look differently in terms of what the law requires.
So then, when all those payments are made, there's a check that comes, or something, where does that go?
Jim?
That comes into the county.
Yeah, I mean,
Into
it's,
the county.
We'll have an account line
Yeah.
item set up for it.
It doesn't offset some of the other taxing jurisdictions that were shorted? So it all comes to the county,
right?
If there is, and then if the amount, isn't there a provision that if there's an amount that comes in for the specific property is greater than the amount of taxes that were owed,
Then
what happens then?
in those instances, any overage above and beyond the taxes that were, well, is that ever gonna occur anymore with the way it is now? Just trying to think of when that would happen.
On the general fund?
Well, there's other taxing entities besides the county, and
Yeah.
You mean
those
besides the
taxes,
Yes.
they're shorted.
No.
Yes.
And they
You're
gotta
talking about
pay for
everything.
revenue neutral flyers and
There,
all kinds of
isn't
stuff.
there a provision that if we get more than, what the taxes due were, that something different happens to that money?
Yeah, and I'd have to look at that to see exactly how that's distributed
Doesn't
at
have
that
to be
point.
right. I mean, it's a lot of moving pieces, and really, the county is taking, basically the process is that the county takes those properties through this process. And once that happens, we don't distribute out any,
No back taxes are paid back to anybody?
no,
No.
no.
Okay.
And then all of the city's liens, for example, for mowing
Yep.
or anything like that, that's all just extinguished, unless the city bids in.
Well, they had one on there, one lot at Peabody, where they had put the taxes for mowing, or bills for mowing on since they started the taxes collection. So it was a special on there. That's what the guy that was bidding on it told me. I didn't realize that, but if that person went to the city of Peabody, I think he could
And
probably.
I'm wondering if maybe some of these questions, if you would want to talk with the attorney that
Yeah,
did
who's
the
handling
tax
it.
sale, might be able to answer those,
Yeah.
because that's
That
one thing they
probably
do
where we-
regularly.
that's probably where we need to
It's,
go.
it's kind of obscure for me, because
Yeah.
I'm not, and probably
Right.
for Brad
Right.
too.
It
a little
is,
bit.
the statute goes through a listing of what the priorities are and what claims are still payable and what are absolutely forgiven. But off the top of my head, I can tell you generally, but some of those are where it gets into specifics. And like the one you're talking about, if they accrue afterwards, that's where people show up at the city commission or city councils and say, I want you to forgive these
Yeah.
too. Well,
Yeah.
they don't have to.
They don't have to,
necessarily.
don't have to.
And it
Right.
was announced at the sale, that
Yes.
if there were specials on there, that they
They
would
would pay.
potentially have to pay those.
Yes.
So,
And agree, okay. And it's not very many sales that brings this kind of money in, so whether it'll cover our expenses for this whole sale or not, I don't know, don't have a clue yet. That's why I want to see what's gonna happen. The next thing is I bought property, Adam, and I would like to see a statute that says, or is this just a county deal, that says, because most people that was buying property was upset that they was getting taxed for the whole year of '23. Instead of being prorated, like when you buy a house, you get prorated from the date you take over.
so
And these tax
that's
sales.
the taxes that's the statement that comes out in November for next year, to pay next year, pay in December.
Yeah, but you're only taking over in, whatever, let's say they get it next month, September of '23, so why not pay a third or a fourth, whatever it would be, of their tax, and that's
Of the ad valorem.
of the ad valorem tax, yeah. And so,
Easier to figure this way. The whole amount is, it's easier.
well, I understand that, but I heard this was all questions from people buying. And I've bought properties and wondered why that I got it in December, I bought it in December, got it in December, and I had to pay the whole year for the tax statement. So, because I didn't have rights to it till December, when I got the tax deed, so. I'm just wondering whether the statute or what the deal is on that, that's all I'm doing, because it's been, a lot of people from Peabody was asking me that question, that's why I'm asking somebody here that question, and we'll ask the tax attorney and find out.
I'll try to find out also, because I'm curious, I don't have the answer to that.
Get the gal on a Zoom meeting someday.
Yeah, I
so you
have
can
heard she
explain
could
all
probably
this
answer
to
it
us.
off the top of her head.
That would be up to the county itself though, wouldn't it?
That I don't know.
I don't know, that's why I'm just
Well, that's
I'm
right,
just
might
asking.
be right, there might be a statute, there might be something.
Dan needs to find an answer to the question.
Yeah.
We'll get an answer.
I think it went pretty good. We saw $50 drags it out a little bit. But some, you might not have sold some at $100 either. I mean, at minimum bid, but it makes it easier for the sheriff to keep it going. So,
There was a few call-outs. There was it was at 700 and somebody just called out 1,000.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
they just
Mhm,
accelerated
yes.
it.
Yeah.
Bunch of
Oh, yeah.
those.
Several properties.
Yeah.
This was kind of I mean, I've never been to one, but from what I understand, this was kind of an unusual sale because we had so much interest, you know, and usually there isn't the interest. I don't know what the difference is, but
Part of it is who you hired.
Okay.
They do a real good job. I mean, I don't want to say
And they
too much,
promoted
but
it well.
they promoted it.
yeah, they promoted it well.
You did a good job.
All right.
Oh, well, thanks.
And there was there, or is this an infringement of rights, to ask, I know of one prospect bidders, did anybody classify themselves as a prospect bidder at their, on paperwork?
Oh, the pre-bidder? Talking about the,
Prospects, we've had them so many, we had some from Oklahoma this time too, the way I understand it. But we've had Oklahoma people here before, they bought property and then let it set.
oh,
And never paid a bit of tax on it, and it come back on the next tax roll.
Speculators.
There you go,
Oh,
that's,
okay.
that's what I'm saying.
I don't think there's a line for.
Can't keep them out.
Yeah,
For-
so,
I don't know how you prove it.
I don't know either, but, it's pretty good.
Yes. Okay, anything else? No. Thank you, Susan.
okay, you're welcome, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're ready for planning and zoning report.
Okay, yes, I had 7.
Yeah. You guys are.
I need to watch.
Would you prefer I take care of my department business first or move to the scope of RFP as well?
Why don't-
Steve and Marcy are in there.
Since we have the whole crew here, why don't we move to that first?
Okay, sounds good.
I know it's a nice cool day out, so everybody's anxious to get back to the field. Cool day in August. We love it.
Yes, and I'll pass these around. Sure.
Thanks.
It's a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marcy. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so as you take a minute to look this draft scope over, Marcy, Steve, and I have worked together to prepare a list of what materials and what actions are needed at the 1240 Commercial Drive building here in Marion that will be the future home of the emergency management offices, road and bridge administrative, and planning and zoning offices.
Yes.
So if you'd like to take a look at that, if you have any questions, if not, we would like to move forward with posting for RFPs from general contractors.
The only thing I saw when I was reading through it before was, do you have any alternates? I mean, do you have anything that you've been like, well, you know, it'd be nice to know what it costs, but I don't know that we can afford it. You get that alternate price, and then you see when the numbers come in, well, yeah, I guess we were right, we couldn't do it. Or,
We do have a couple of items that we would like to do if there's still money in the budget for this project. We would like to get a generator on site, an exterior storm shelter, some concrete in the parking lot, and then furniture for whatever, if there's any money left.
I'm just saying, because sometimes when you put it in as an alternate, the contractors will realize that they got the job anyway, so it's kind of like the mobilization thing for dirt workers.
Okay.
They're already there, so you can get it a little cheaper.
If they can do some of that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but you put them in as alternates, so they're not part of the base bid, so
Okay.
you can throw them out if you don't have the budget.
So would you just add it to the
At the
end as
bottom.
an alternate, just
Yeah.
label it alternate and then
Yeah.
list those other, okay?
Alternates, and then the divisions that you would need to fulfill those alternates.
Okay. We can definitely make that update on the scope. I'm not sure how long you would like for us to put that out, or what the process is moving forward. I think a lot of times Tina handles some of that.
Do you have a recommended timeline?
I would say it needs to be out probably for at least 3 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, somewhere around 3 to 4 weeks.
There's a lot of stuff on there. Do you wanna make it 30 days or?
Well, do you have a floor plan
We do have a
To-
floor plan.
to accompany it?
Yes.
With locations of devices, furniture of, like, the different levels of floor plan, basically?
We do.
Okay. To accompany all this.
I see here you've got provide 10 tons of heating and cooling. Did someone give you those specs to go by, or?
I think that was just kind of a general, when Bryce was here, he was looking at the building and looked at what was there already, and then he had more knowledge of HVAC than I do, so I think that was a
Well, me too.
recommendation from him.
I was-
The existing size of the units based on the square footage of the building, I think, so.
Okay. Sometimes you can get a contractor and they say, this system ain't gonna work, so.
Yeah,
That's,
well, and then we'll either ask for an increase or a deduct.
okay.
So would like have the bids due September 15th?
If we could.
Because we got Labor Day in there too.
Right. If we could, we would like to see this back by the end of August, or maybe that first week of September, if at all possible.
Yeah, if you've got a floor plan ready to go and showing things kind of point blank where you want them, I don't know what, it speeds it up, because nobody's trying to imagine what you want.
Right.
Good point.
I think we have a pretty good layout. We've had meetings to determine where we want electrical, data, furniture, windows, doors, those types of things. We have the dimensions.
Yeah, so you should be able to have a turnaround within a couple weeks or
Yeah.
2.5 weeks. It shouldn't be hard to do.
I don't think it should take long for someone to be able to.
And you're not specking out specific items or equivalents, so they're allowed to use those, their free reign of name brand products, so it shouldn't take very long to put it together.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions? Not, is there a motion to allow the 3 departments to proceed with the request for proposals for building remodeling at 1240 Commercial Drive?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion from Commissioner Crew. Second from Commissioner Gary. Questions or discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion carried 5-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve and Mercy,
You
for
bet.
being here
See you
also.
later. Appreciate the time coming in.
Reorganize my binder here.
You have a few topics today.
Yes. Get it all taken care of, right?
That's right, one trip.
Okay, so you received a packet by email. Was everyone able to get that and open the information regarding these 3 public hearing items. Okay, the first one I'd like to talk about is case PC 23-03, a CUP for a kayak rental business. This was an application by Nathan Scott Forwalder to take place at 2607 Jade in Hillsborough, Kansas. They had a pretty thorough development plan outlined in their application.
That's Broken Bridge, isn't it?
What was that?
It's just south of Broken Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. There is public access there. The Corps of Engineers
Yeah. There's a boat ramp
is
there.
aware. I believe you received the staff report and the minutes from the meeting. The commission recommended approval of the CUP with the condition that the CUP be reviewed every 5 years for compliance.
Okay.
Was that Steve Smith that made the comment, was he a landowner within half a mile, or is he just
No, he's
public?
10 miles from there.
Okay, 10 miles from there, okay.
Yeah, it
Okay.
says his residence is in Heston,
Yeah.
and they
right.
own property in Lehigh Township,
Okay.
and they were in favor of Mr. Forwalder establishing the kayak rental business.
Yeah, I just wondered if he was, I didn't see whether he was in his property was in contact with it or not. Okay.
They're surrounded by Corps of Engineers property on 3 sides,
Okay.
and then ag ground on the south.
Okay. Other questions on the application?
I will have to bring resolutions back over.
Okay.
I didn't bring those.
Okay.
Did you email them?
I did not.
Okay, because I was gonna say I didn't see any. Okay.
I'll get that
Okay.
back to you.
But there's no other questions? Okay. Very good. And the next one?
Okay. PC 23-04, short-term rental CUP filed by Mr. Felix Ramirez to take place at 3 Jerome, Marion. That's in the Lake Lot District. He also has a development plan that was included with the application. The planning commission recommended approval with the condition that the CUP be reviewed every year for compliance, and the property maintain an annual registration with the county. If you'll remember, we do have short-term rental regulations built into the zoning code now. And so there's some items outlined on that that would need to be followed.
Right. That's good, those regulations are there, everybody's consistent.
Yes.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, I do, I'm not really sure how to handle it.
What's that?
The applicant appears to have delinquent taxes in Marion County.
Not on that property, though. I'm not sure how that
No, I mean,
affects
that's why I really don't know how to word it.
Right.
I mean, I don't know that we can take that into consideration
His credit should.
for this. So,
Okay, that's Brad's territory. So
yeah, I won't go any farther.
Applicant tends to struggle to bring things up to code for ADA.
It's current on this.
Yeah, it's current on that property.
Is that a provision with something like that happening, that the taxes have to be current?
Yes, so a conditional use permit goes with the land itself. So we always check for back taxes, double check the deed, make sure it's registered to the applicant or the applicant's, or the agent of the applicant.
And we're doing this every year? You're checking every year?
If the taxes are paid out.
Well,
On that
don't you have to review it
registration.
every year? don't you have to do it, review it every year?
Is that part of the annual review that's recommended, I
Yeah,
think is
that's what I'm
what Randy's
saying, yeah.
asking.
I will double check that.
And you said this would be reviewed on an annual basis. That's good.
Yeah, the other one was 5 years.
Right.
So my question being is,
Yes.
if,
Yeah.
on their annual review, if
Yes.
it's behind taxes
Yes.
next year, what are we gonna do with it?
Right.
Okay.
And then Sharon will
Did I-
check in and get an answer.
That'd be another question.
Mhm.
Sharon, if it isn't in the motion, it probably should be as a general compliance review on an annual basis. That would then deal with that if it isn't expressly noted as part of the motion when the commission did that, in terms of their conditions.
Okay, yes, that's definitely a possibility. We also built into that annual registration that those
Should be.
conditions can change on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
And that property owners would be notified ahead of time so they can come into compliance prior to their registration
Yeah,
coming due.
gives complete flexibility with
Mhm.
what I would expect to.
So we can add this right onto the registration.
Yeah.
Okay, does that address the concern? Okay.
That's a
Well, good point.
Yes, thank you.
Should be any bed and breakfast.
But that, yeah.
Are they, has the text been made clear on the whole RV parking type thing too? Didn't we
That's
have
a-
one that was trying to?
That's a general lake lot provision. Campers and RVs are not allowed to be
Okay.
occupied in a yard of a lake lot.
Okay. Just making sure that got ironed out before we sign
Mhm.
another one.
Good question.
Other questions? All good points. I'm glad Sharon keeps track of all those things.
I'll go right ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
How much work we create for ourselves? It's always that, that's enough said, ain't gonna go no farther. I mean,
You mean in terms of that monitoring?
oh yeah, I mean, it's,
There's Sharon may have heard of it at some of the presentations. There are several companies, GMA as well, there's something called Cobblestone that's out there now that it just sat through a complete presentation. It was purchased by another governmental entity. For all of the contracts that the city has that are annual or semi-annual or reviewable on a periodic basis, for all of planning and zoning's requirements in these CUPs, for all the other areas where zoning changes may impact something, it allows, for lack of a better term, it is a database. It is like an Excel program, only far more sophisticated, that allows every department to have their own section and to develop reminders. 90 days from now, somebody better check on the following.
yeah.
And I don't know cost, I wasn't involved in that part of it. I was just involved in how do we set it up so it's compliant.
It would take a tickler system of some type.
Yeah, and it's really, I was really impressed after 3 hours of sitting through it, what it will do for you, you know, and it's not all that much input, other than every time you have a hearing, you have something like this that's granted, someone puts in the initial information, and that's really what it is. It's a very, very sophisticated tickler system.
It's like putting on the calendar your hands
And
on.
then once a year, you gotta have a tech that's gonna take that information, go out, check the field, and so that's why it was, how much work do we create for ourselves? That's exactly what you talked about, made it easier, but we still gotta have that person
Yeah.
in
Do
the
you-
field.
do you charge a license fee every year?
We have not established a fee for that annual
Maybe
registration.
that would be $50 fee.
To do something like that.
That would have to come through a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I sort of agree there.
That won't cover it, but it's
No,
gonna help.
no, I agree with you, because
Just an annual service fee.
Yeah.
because I know what's happened in the past, I know what department heads will ask. They will want a person to take care of this type work. And not saying Sharon will, but it's been quite follow the line, so.
Well, I mean, it's
Good
just,
point.
that whole area is expanding, where you're gonna have an Airbnb in every little town, everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be time consuming.
Right now, we're pretty primitive. We have a binder that has months on it.
That'll
And as the
probably
months come up,
evolve over time.
That's the same system, yeah.
Right, it is definitely primitive.
But the lake is, to me, there's no end to what could happen out
There
there.
could be 15 or 20 out there real
Oh,
easy.
yeah, easily, very easily.
Well, same thing, you know, it could happen at East Shore. or
Oh,
even-
yes, same thing.
Okay, so you'll have the resolution for us in next. Okay, very good. Any other questions specific to that application?
I'd like Commissioner Crowfoot's suggestion that we ought to look at is, for creating this kind of work, that there ought to be a fee of some type to study it, see how we would treat it and stuff like that.
So, back to the question of the application itself. Any issues on the application? Okay, then back to the general topic of annual type registrations. Would you research and work with the board and with Brad on possibility of a fee for that annual or every 5-year renewal?
Yes.
Renewals.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, annual registration.
Airbnb has to be every year.
Yes, yes. But we have other situations where there has to be a 5-year renewal. There should also be an inspection fee for that. Okay,
I agree.
very good.
All right.
Next is text amendments?
Yes, the next topic is text amendments to the regulations. And essentially, if you looked at that, there was some draft resolution text that basically broke it down. This is what the Planning Commission is recommending. And there are already state statutes that regulate the notifications. We also have built into our county regulations how people are notified when there's a zoning change or a text amendment change or those kinds of things. Right now, when there's a change to that property, like a CUP, folks within 1,000 feet of that parcel or within that CUP area are notified by a letter. The city, this would basically be giving the city just a little more influence on the planning, or on the Board of Commissioners' final determination. So a city has the ability to come to the public hearing, they have the ability to make comments, to be part of the record of that case. But the changes that are being proposed would allow the city to have their own say-so, if you will, within these certain areas. So if you looked at the maps of each city, there's an area outlined around them. Some of them it's a half mile, some of it's 1 mile. This is not extraterritorial jurisdiction. They have no other responsibilities that go with this. This is just a notification area. So if someone within that area requests a CUP, the city's gonna get a letter and have that same amount of time to review it, and they have the ability to come to the commission and say, we do or we don't like this. And then it would take a super majority vote of the commissioners to approve or deny or what have you. If there's any, how would I word this, Brad? If there's a difference between what the Planning Commission is recommending and what the city is recommending, it would take a super majority vote of the commission to approve or deny.
Triggered by that difference, if the city, which is what Sharon is saying, in the instances where I've been presented that late, and that's just giving them some ability to have at least an extra step in this process to come to you, and they have to convince the greater number that the particular way is good or bad, as far as they're concerned.
Oh, I think it's a great idea, because it affects the city's future
Growth
long-term
patterns. Yeah.
goals or plans or that kind of thing, and if they get overstepped, I think it's valuable.
Sure. And I mean, I think the goal is that the county and the cities want to be agencies that work together and have that positive relationship as things grow and improvements are made. So it gives them a little bit more of a voice, but it also doesn't really come with any requirements.
But yet there's been a state statute we've been following and we've got along with.
You're
I
right.
mean, just right down here at Hillsborough, the south end of town, did they send a letter to that, meeting of those that they, for the site build boxes?
No, they bypassed. That's what they were so upset about. They didn't even come talk to them.
Can I
Yep,
answer
they-
that?
yeah, yes.
Okay. So the city was sent that application as a courtesy. They
From-
were able to view the
from
application
you.
from
The
the.
city.
Yeah, not
Common.
from the individuals. The individuals purposely
Right.
stepped outside the city to try to circumvent the city.
This wouldn't, the applicant wouldn't have to go to the city in this case either.
Right.
It would still go through the planning commission. However, and I think statutorily, the only way that the city would get the actual application from the individual is if they had ETJ. Brad, correct me
Yes,
if I'm wrong. If that's what the city wants, then they can pursue that with the county. However, it has to be a mutual agreement. And then that would come with other ancillary agreements like road use, memorandums of understanding, subdivision build out. Are they gonna require curb and guttering on this ag tract because someone wants a conditional use out there? I think there are a lot of responsibilities that come with ETJ that cities may or may not be ready to handle.
And the city of Hillsborough, if you'll recall, we had this issue in terms of, it never really quite got where, if you look at their code, their planning and zoning code, it indicates that they put this in place. They didn't, and not through some intentional oversight. I think they just missed it. They needed to notify you, is what Sharon is saying is absolutely correct. It has to be by mutual agreement that we allow for that to occur. So it's going hand in hand, and it kind of deals with what Kent was saying. And we would like for them to have that ability to influence it.
So in situations like that, would the city become actually an ex officio member of the commission?
No, just a petitioning body that has some ability, what do I want to call that? A super form of, not power, but an ability above and beyond the average citizen to come in and say, we would like input on this, and then they can trigger the ability for you to have to go, instead of a 3-2, we'd have to go 4 out of 5 are going to agree with this. Gives them a little bit more of an opportunity to convince you that we don't, for example, if they are opposed, here's why, and here's what we'd like to see changed. And if they can cause, if they don't have any real compulsion, you're gonna get your 4, you're gonna get 5 out of 5, but if so, gives them a little bit more heft in terms of how that vote can go.
But on the case that I mentioned, we did receive a letter from Matt Stiles saying something that they was not opposed or.
They were.
They were opposed.
opposed.
But we handled that only as a public comment.
Yes.
At that time, because they were not able to speak as a voter influencing
Right.
entity at that point.
That's it. Because Sharon saw it, called me, we checked it, they had attempted, and I don't even know if that was something that was really heavily discussed, I could never find in their minutes, to create that jurisdiction and that ability. But to do that, the statute's very clear. It had to come to you, you had to receive notice, there had to be a hearing, you had to approve that particular power, if you will, would be given to them. That was never done, so we have nothing of record in the Register of Deeds office, which should have been if that were the case, indicating that. And then those notices, in some instances, I'm trying to think of the exact examples, those notices can be dictated to be required to go to a city, as opposed to, just saying, no, that's not someone we have to worry about in this particular instance. And the statute picks that up in different cases.
That's good, a good idea. I think it's a good plan.
You've already worked with the city of Hillsborough to come up with these text amendments.
All the
Or they've
cities,
commented.
all
All
12
the cities.
cities have been notified, they've been sent letters. We've only had communication from 2 of those cities, Hillsborough and Gospel.
Hillsborough, the way I understand it, if you don't take it out a mile, they don't have no time for it. That's the way I read the letter. Is that correct?
So they're.
If they don't take it out to a mile,
From their jurisdictional limit, you mean?
yeah, if there is no support for a 1 mile at Hillsborough ETJ, then the city will not bother moving forward.
What they were asking for, and this is my interpretation of the communication from the city of Hillsborough, is that if they're only going to get that, whatever it is, 1 mile area of notification around their city, then they're okay with that. But what they would like to request on top of that is a 1 mile ETJ plus a 1 mile outside of that ETJ for notification area. And at the hearing on July 27th, the planning commission was not prepared to discuss ETJ.
Okay, so the way I looked at the map is how, you told us to start with, Sharon, 1,000 feet, is that from city limits? Is that how that map was designed, or
That's
around all of our cities that you did?
So that's sort of two different topics. Let me see if I
Okay.
can delineate that
Okay.
for you. The state requirements and our county requirements are that if there is a CUP application for a certain parcel or a certain area, that 1,000 feet around that area, notification letters are sent to those property owners. When you get to the city limit, that area becomes 200 feet. So you may be extending 1,000 feet all the way around, and then you hit a city border and it only goes to 200 feet inside of that border. That notification doesn't go to the city, it goes to the actual property owners. So there's no requirement for us to even notify the city that there's going to be a land use change outside their border. With this proposed language, it would require us to notify the cities within that designated area that there'd be a land use change.
Okay, but that designated area, how was that set up? That you've done around every one of the towns, the 12 towns, what guidelines did you use? I was trying to square mile, half mile, I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, there's no set standard for that.
Okay.
It's just, this
Water
is
code
appendix
requires.
A, and this is the map, and if you're within that shaded area, the letter goes to the city.
So somebody officially went around and looked at all the towns, or just drew this around this town?
Just drew this around the town.
Okay.
And then these were provided to the cities. The cities that wanted to comment on it did. The cities that either weren't interested or really didn't care, didn't comment.
Well, I think it's a great idea, because sitting on, as a council member, mayor both at City of Peabody, and something's happening right outside your town within a certain distance, there's been many times things have happened, and so what? We don't know about, city don't know about it, until it's too late.
Sure.
And it's a good deal. Don't get me wrong, it's a good deal. But just for notification and that right now, I think that's a plus, and I think any town on that list of 12 would just be happy to be being notified. But it seems not when I read the rest of that letter. If there's no support for a 1 mile ETJ, then the city will not bother moving forward. That's plain as, to me, that's plain as day.
With the ETJ, I
Yeah,
believe.
I
that
think
was
they're
the
separate
ETJ.
two things, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be two separate things. I think if they
Don't-
couldn't get ETJ, then they're, it is what
If
it
they
is.
don't get it, they don't care then.
If they don't get it, they want to still keep the proposed
I didn't read it that
area.
way.
And I may be misinterpreting that. That's,
Because the city, and then they explain why, the city is capable of reasonably extending utility service to an area 1 mile from the current city limits. We feel that it would be within the city's ability to provide the necessary planning, zoning, inspection service, and it would be the city's best interest to maintain the ETJ for orderly future development. That's their, it's right there in the letter. You don't have to beat around the bush about it. It's right there. They feel they can, and I just surprised, because all of the north end from the city of AMPI has all been developed by the city of Hillsborough and went under come in and work things out. And then, I don't know.
Another option that cities have is to annex land. If they want total control over what happens there, they can also work with the county to annex it.
It's more of an uphill than it used to be, but yes, contiguous property.
Yeah, that's another one that got into. If you look at the city of Peabody's map, you'll see the sewer ponds is a mile straight east of town. And to get that done was a piece of work to get it done. I mean, because it's not continuous property.
Right. If you own it, I've had that with a golf course that was 2 miles outside of the city limits, and we had to go through the entire petition process with the county in order to bring it in, because it's kind of treated like a postage stamp. And like, but you do own it, and it is all your control. So ultimately got it done, but it's a lot more work.
Does this, doing this influence map, anything into that influence map, does it help somebody develop something besides any other, I don't know what it might help, how it would help, but does it help, or is it designed to help to develop around a town? Let's say Gossel, they've got houses all around towns with got little 50 by 100 feet lots or 200-foot lots. There's other towns that would like to have that, but since they're in the county's rules, they can't do that because they have to have 5 acres or something like that. And I think Jonah knows which one I'm talking about. So I'm just saying that, does this designed to help that?
Yes.
Or is it, yeah.
Yes, because what you'll also see in the county, in the right circumstances, we're going to be more understanding about someone with a lagoon system or lateral fields. The city will not, and they do not want that, but yet these folks don't want to come to them because they don't want to be hooked on, because they're for fear of being annexed. So they'll put a whole development around them with, you know, whatever the minimum standard may be that they can get away with the county. And it landlocks the city in the only growth pattern they have in some cases, for example, if there's a floodplain issue or that kind of thing. So the city at least wants some ability to say, well, if you're gonna do that, that's great. I mean, you wanna put in houses and all that, but we would very much like, in terms of the infrastructure and safety, health, welfare, have some input on what your infrastructure is going to be and what your streets are gonna be made of and where they're gonna be located and that kind of thing.
And I'm just thinking about this a little more than as we're going here. There's a town that I live in that has not provided sewer service to people south of the river, south of the creeks. And so they've taken some water out to one area, but not to another area in their city limits. And they can't afford to. I mean, now Hillsborough has made a correct statement. They probably can do that. They can afford it to take a sewer line out for a development or something like that because they know they're gonna figure out what it can pay. But the city of Peabody can't afford it. I mean, today with pump systems, it's a lot cheaper than what the old gravity system used to be, but you still gotta have a pump somewhere to pump it out and pump it up. So there's we're playing with different cities. The smaller cities can't afford what Marion and Hillsborough might be able to do in the expanding around their cities. But I like the idea of, if this helps the cities expand around them, because they're all wanting to build new houses, with the development south of Hillsborough, very good additions. And if we can help them do that in any way, I'm for that. But somewhere we gotta keep it all in mind.
Okay,
The
so,
same rules don't affect everybody.
so do you support the changes recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board or not?
To what we've seen in there, I would support that, yes. But I'm not willing to go to the mile.
And that's not in the
Yeah.
proposal. Okay, is this one we can take action on, or do we need to wait? for
I need the
resolution? Okay.
resolution.
Okay. At this point, any other questions for Sharon, or is there opposition, I guess? Okay, then I'd say, again, like the other two, prepare the resolution for next week.
Okay, we can do that. And then, so we have a building discussion. Do you need another wind farm update? Where that's at, just
there something happening September 28th?
Grand opening.
I'm not aware of anything specifically.
I think it's grand opening, isn't it?
Yeah, we had some kind of
We had a letter.
notification.
Okay.
Yeah.
September, isn't it?
Yeah, I think September 28th. Maybe I'm wrong on the date. I don't remember.
Can they get their equipment?
So the.
September 28th at 11:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why.
The main power transformer that was being replaced is in Dallas, and it'll be shipped by rail yard. They're expecting around August 27th for that MPT to be on the pad, and then they'll ship out the defective MPT. And as far as reclaim, the Gentai is working with KDOT on reclamation and getting landowner approvals of their dress out on the transmission line towers. And that is about it. There will be a 20-day outage to install that MPT, and then the turbines will all be commissioned mid-September. And then also the ADLS will be commissioned at that time too, because it's hooked up to that circuit on the MPT.
All right, very good.
I seen a rail yard transformer car sitting at Walton, 4 transformers.
Oh, really?
And I thought, oh, maybe it come into Walton, and then they shipped it out, but not yet then.
I don't think
Okay.
yet. No, I think this one was en route from Dallas as of last Thursday.
There's one sitting over at the Walton elevator, so that's, it just showed up here in the last 2 weeks, so I thought maybe it was already in, but maybe not.
Unless they drove really fast.
All right, well, thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Just a one-day drive.
Okay, I see Krista's here. Would it be all right if we did the
Sure.
architectural review first? All right, Krista, you want to come in? We'll move to the architectural firm RFP responses. Hi, Krista.
Hi.
All right, Tina gave us the update on the architectural firms. All of the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 prices are all separate. So
Okay.
the firms are all consistent,
Except for one.
except for one.
Yeah.
The
With
last
the landmark.
meeting,
Okay.
we had come to a point of kind of a top 3. HFG, Alloy, and HG, or HD, too many H's.
There were, that confused me a little bit when I was doing the review of everything.
There was a lot of separate information to keep track of. And again, Tina, I don't know how we got through it without you spreadsheeting all this for us. Using the point system and the price system, it kind of come down to those 3. So where would the commission like to go?
That's sort of interesting, because when she said that this morning, I looked at 1 and 2. No, do we take 1A, A and B, or just one of those 2? 1B, 1A, and then both combined, and then plus,
We had to do 1 and 2 to get a complete project.
yeah, but 1A and B, we have to do all of
Yeah.
one of those.
That was the other thing, is, in order to get your grants, how detailed of a drawing do we have to have?
We have to at least have something to submit to, it's like an uploadable, the one, the
So-
Sutherland Foundation.
So the drawing that we
have to
did
upload.
have wouldn't qualify?
It could have been an uploadable thing, it just has to, you have to get to the point of, this is what we wanna go with, this is, this is
It
our,
had-
be a
had
final
all
Has to be
the-
approved.
a final.
Yes, it has to be approved. And phase 2 would probably be adequate.
Right. No, it's not adequate for a USDA grant, which is what we decided not to go into, just because of the costs. By the time that you do all the requirements, the cost of the USDA grant is really you're not going to be left with,
And the timeline.
yeah.
But if we get an approved phase 2 drawing, then we open the door to other funding sources.
And I think that also you would need that for your conditional use permit or whatever's required for zoning through the planning,
Yes.
planning and zoning through the city
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Phase 2 would be enough.
I would think so. Then you're gonna want to build what you submit, you know.
Yeah.
Because if you change your mind and decide to build something else, you'll have to resubmit,
Do it
right?
again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And that's the whole point of this, is to get a design that gets approval.
Is there any advantage to working with the same architect that the hospital uses here in town?
Is it disadvantaged because they can't get to it quick enough?
That was next June, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think they've used,
No.
they've used several of the architects actually that responded. I think, actually, maybe even 3 of them.
I mean, Alloy has a 5-year plan with the hospital.
Alloy does?
Yeah. And the SPT is doing the concession stand. And they didn't have time. Alloy said they had time. Is that correct, Krista?
It is.
Don't be afraid to speak up. Say, hey, you're wrong.
I think sticking to the timeline, just from my standpoint, is priority
Yes.
because of some of the grant money that we still have.
If you're comparing apples to apples, all of these, which it appears we are, and you're representing the constituents in your district, isn't it your responsibility to vote for the most cost-effective?
Most cost effective. Yeah, but I mean, the most cost effective is somebody that ranks number 6 for the whole project, but number 1 if you're only gonna do parts 1 to 2. That's the part that throws you off.
And that's
Well, and the
what-
whole idea behind an RFP is to look at qualifications, not only cost.
Right. That's what last week Commissioner Gary did an excellent job of comparing our qualifications of each applicant and then matching it, that score with the price.
I did the price. She did an excellent job.
Well, yeah, but you meshed them together. Correct. Yes. Yes, it was a team project. But the point was looking at both.
And I had sort of, just before the meeting, I had HFG sort of out in the lead.
Okay.
That was sort of my goal at that time. I thought they was the cheapest for the whole project.
I think it's the highest price, aren't they?
HFG?
No,
No.
cheapest overall.
They were the
Overall,
project.
least
overall,
Yeah.
Overall.
They were the most
Overall
expensive.
project.
They were
Yeah.
the most expensive on 1 and 2.
Two, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that's what threw me off. And then when, when we do that, they're higher price, so.
They're getting the money up front.
They're also the ones with the most experience, basically.
Yeah, they got, right, they had a picture of their health and stuff, what they built.
Could I ask a question, the whole commission? Sure. If the project comes in at 1.6 million, are you still gonna do it?
My goal was 1.2 or
Okay.
under.
If it comes in over, are you still gonna do it? That's the question,
That's
because,
the number Tina picked out.
yeah, but I'm just saying, so if you budget 1.1, 1.2, and it comes in over that, are you committed to go ahead and do it? Because if you are, then you should pick the lowest price on the overall.
In my mind, that's where the commission works on design to bring the cost down to the goal.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, so if you're dead set, I don't,
Krista has to
heck or
get-
high water,
has to
I'm
get
going to make
grants.
this project come through, you wanna go with HFG. if you're on the fence or uncertain at all, you wanna be looking at parts 1 and 2 on that price. That's just what I'm saying, that's where my brain is coming from.
Or
I
even if
think,
you just.
I think since it's gonna come down to, in my mind, you're gonna have to find a lot of cost savings. We're in an environment of really, really high building costs, overruns, changes, and from what I'm seeing, it looks like you're voting on 1 and 2.
Okay, Krista, you had a comment?
I do think that it is appropriate to look at the phases 1 and 2 costs, because what if we don't need phase 3 at all? I mean, what if we don't need it and we just go with a contractor? I think that there's benefit to not doing the full-blown
So
plan, you know, being
you're
able
okay
to
with
pick
going to
out
the
where
design
your,
build?
you know, where your
Be a design
electrical
build, yeah.
switches go. I mean, the people that work there, they know, hey, I need 5 electrical switches
Right.
for
Right.
this room.
But,
Our primary goal is to get a design and a project price.
okay.
So we can apply for grants and
And to
stuff.
be able to apply for grant, also be able to help with the bidding process. But it comes back to the commission has to be fully on board with the design and the project estimate cost.
I'm gonna take Krista's comment here, and I appreciate what she just said.
Yep.
And, you know, I would like to do that, Krista, but there's a person, you got in on it late, sitting here with, and I've done other building over there, the jail. I want somebody responsible for what is in the plan. So that almost requires me to go to 3. I mean, I've got to, and I don't know who's gonna be responsible if we took 1 and 2 and said, yeah, 1 and 2 of firm A can do this, but then after we get that and we get to that point, I gotta have somebody that guarantees the work is being done correctly. That's what over on the jail, that guy was down here, if there was supposed to be so much steel in the wall, he was inspecting the steel on the wall. And so, that's sort of where I want to guarantee, but as we know on the building down there, there was so many different add-ons and takeouts and stuff with the transfer station.
So you'd be asked, you could approve 1 and 2, and then you'd be looking at like a supervisory foreman.
Somebody,
I
It's
mean,
a-
a person that oversees the total.
It's a construction manager.
Is that construction, that's the word.
Engineer.
yes.
And is that cheaper than paying for phase 3?
Yeah. That's-
You'd know, the construction guys would know more about that than I.
Sometimes,
And then it comes back to
sometimes
who?
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then you'd have to go out for bids on that.
Who do you trust?
But it still comes back to you have to have a design and you have to have an estimated cost to start.
And am I right? Does everybody understand that once, if you hired to put part 3 in this, they would have that person out here on site and taking care of all that for us?
Weekly meetings and stuff like that.
Okay.
That's how that works in the architect world and engineer world, maybe once a month.
He's done it
maybe not.
every day.
That doesn't mean they.
Project superintendent, the person that would do the
Correct.
design build
Correct.
without the blueprints, would be there every week, day on day.
Yeah, project
Their project manager would show up once a week.
Okay.
Their superintendent would be on site all the time.
You'd be swinging a hammer some days.
Typically not. Usually they're in the nice air conditioned trailer.
And we didn't, and on the architectural services, we did not request a cost for construction management, like for oversight, on this.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to.
that
get everybody-
answers your question.
Yeah, trying to
Some
get
of
everybody
them
aboard.
did,
What-
some of them did provide that.
Oh, yeah,
just-
it was in there,
Mhm.
that's right.
But we didn't request it
Okay.
as part of our,
Yeah. And if you have a good superintendent, you don't need a construction management, but you don't know who you're gonna get,
Yeah.
contractor.
what we.
My
what we
question is,
requested
I'm not
was
a
just the
construction
bids.
guy, is this type of a building require that? I mean, is it that complex?
No, but grants are gonna require it. at least the beginning stages, from what I'm understanding, right? One and two.
Right.
So that brings in an architect. But the building itself is not, except for some of the key pieces and areas that she has that are
But what it-
medical world related.
What it comes back to is Commissioner Dalkey's statement, we still want a quality product.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of getting to that quality product. Once we have a design and we have a budget, we have an estimate, then we follow through to make sure it's built to those specifications.
And I'll just throw this out there myself. We all know I'm not in favor of the location, but I would go with Alloy out, on my opinion, because they're the mid-range. They're number 3 over here, they're number 3 over here. They are basically 12 higher on the initial cost, but they're only 12 higher on the final cost. And that allows you every given chance to break out or go all the way through. But that 12 buys you your freedom.
What I think the commission needs to do is, I would have put a drawing just like she did, everything she wanted. Now, if there's some things that the commission needs to cut out and get down to a cost, when it comes to this 1.1 or 6, we gotta be able to work with her in order to get the things that she's gotta have, but maybe there's some other way we can do something.
Right.
So, that's what I'm game for, trying to keep.
How do you get to that point without detailed plans?
Well, I thought this.
That's what we're trying to get now.
Is 2 trying?
It's 1 and 2.
2 is a conceptual plan, so it would be like just basic, not
Floor plan,
a floor plan,
elevations.
the exterior, some information on finishes potentially, and then where it would be on the lot, that placement, site plan. But it wouldn't include, it might include some 3D kind of
But
renderings.
isn't that the cheapest part of the project?
But it wouldn't include like the
Something that kind of stuff.
mechanicals and all of that.
Yeah.
Once you start.
But once
doing
you get to that point, and you have furniture grants, is that right?
Carpet,
Yes, so
windows.
the money that we have left in one of our ELC grants, which is a COVID grant, that we have had expended, I'll have to have invoices in by the end of May in order to even put it on the grant.
And this is, would that work? I mean, that's kind of what we're trying to get. There's no plug-ins or
No.
plumbing or nothing.
I know, yeah, but, well, it will, it's just,
It is.
it's,
You can
when
use
it
it
comes to
for-
bid time, there's apples and oranges that happen, because you're gonna have to go through, and draw in everything you want, where you want it for yourself, but you've gotta put a list of how many devices, how many BTUs of a unit, whether a mini split, all these things, because every contractor's gonna bid different, and then you're gonna get stuck with something you don't like. So you've gotta lay it all out so that they're bidding what you want, each one of them is. So when the cheapest one comes through, the cheapest one still has everything you want.
Okay.
That's where the detail comes in.
Yeah.
And that's time consuming.
Okay, Commissioner Garing's made a recommendation of Alloy.
I had left a message.
Other recommendations?
This morning.
That's the one I kind of liked.
We are selling.
Like I said, I don't agree with the location. It's not my favorite spot. But I will make a motion to go with Alloy.
Can I make one just general comment? It's been reported that this has become a contentious discussion. I don't see that it has, but it's been reported that way. I think, I'm speaking for myself, I want to give Krista the best, very best that we can.
Yes.
You know, it's not about anything about personalities or anything, I'm just representing taxpayers.
It's been good conversation.
Yeah, and so I don't see that this has become contentious, but if it has, it needs to stop. I haven't seen it, but, you know, we're all each representing a district, but I think on something like this, we're working as a team.
At the end of the day, it's a county whole.
Right.
All right, we have a motion.
Can I get clarification on the motion?
Yes.
You said to go with alloy for which phases?
For 1 and 2.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't keep that clear. But yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner.
1 and 2.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Goering to move forward on the public health RFP for architectural design phase 1 and 2 with Alloy. The motion was by Commissioner Goering, second by Commissioner Crowfoot. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. We can move forward. The building committee is appointed. Commissioner Dahlke, Commissioner Crowfoot, Krista.
Well, do you want me to get in touch with Alloy then, or how do?
I'll have to send something to all the firms.
Okay,
And then I'll establish that initial communication
okay.
and put you in.
How about Dave and I then too? Well, all commissioners, when you do it, just, is that, so we,
Do it.
so we all can know, I mean, the same thing, is that, so we're all legal? When you do that and send it out, send it to all commissioners, whatever you.
She just sent it.
So, okay, I can send you a copy of what I send. Do you mean you want me to send a copy to you all for information purposes of the letter I send to each firm? Is that what you mean?
Just copies, yeah.
Okay. I will send you a separate, I'm not gonna copy
okay.
you in on the communication with the vendor because
It becomes too easy to have a.
Yeah, right.
it would
a meeting
potentially be a
violation.
meeting violation if they respond to reply all or ask questions or something.
But once the
You got a
process
copy for us
starts,
next week on
the
it.
three of you
Sure.
will be working with.
Okay.
Right, so when I,
Let Tina get the process together, the contract for us to sign, paperwork in place.
Oh, right. The other thing is.
Before you read Chris.
What?
Yeah, the other thing Alloy had was EPH listed, so.
And I want to thank everybody for working hard on this. I think it'll be a great addition to the county. Krista, with all the time she's put in and research she's done, and it's going to be fun and a great project. Thank you.
I do have one last thing, I guess, to
Okay.
share with you all.
Sure.
I have a card, it's sitting on my desk, and I will bring it to the next meeting. But we have a card from, the employees there at the health department thanking the commissioners for the step raise, the annual step raise. And
Oh,
just know that that was very appreciated by
Good.
everyone.
Thank you. And we appreciate their work.
I will leave that with the clerk's office.
But pretty fortunate, it sounds like everybody's, like on the road bridge department. At least we only have one department that way.
All right, let's move into Brad, county counselor.
We need determined that we would need an executive session for attorney-client privilege,
Okay.
potential litigation.
Okay. 15 minutes. I move we recess into executive session in order to discuss potential litigation pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. Item 2, consultation with our attorney-client privilege with Commission Brad Tina for 15 minutes, 2:05 to 2:20.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Goering. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carried. We will be back at 2:20.
Thought we were getting out of here early. Nobody was patiently waiting to get back on.
you want to stop talking to us?
This conference will now be
There we go.
recorded.
She's slow.
Oh my goodness, okay.
We are back.
Sorry about the delay.
Not a worry. Out of executive session, no decisions made. Earlier, I'd asked for an addition to the agenda, road and bridge, to talk about, we've got a couple grants out there, and timing is getting critical to keep moving forward on those road projects. Would the commission be acceptable to have EBH, Darren Newfield, come in and talk next week?
Yes.
So that we can keep those grant projects on track? Or Tina, is that appropriate? I mean, we need to set up something longer term with him if he's gonna continue to, or do we not?
He's doing the grants.
Well.
I mean, I guess I don't know
Or
what
he's
you're
just
asking,
babysitting
like to
them.
apply for
Okay,
new grants?
no,
or-
so, 290th,
Uh-huh.
from Lincolnville to Remington, we've been approved for economic development grant through KDOT.
Sure.
Paperwork needs to be going in, processes need to be done, but right now.
We just need
it's-
to be, I think Steve and Vicky and I can probably submit that information if we're getting the communications.
What about the rest of the grants?
And
to-
then
to
there's
finish
the
this
high,
stretch?
high-risk rural roads, and then there's the.
That's all moving forward as far as I know.
um,
But I mean, it's okay to have him come.
okay.
Do they have the paperwork in the department right now?
I,
Do we know that needs to be submitted?
Bryce gave the paperwork to Darren,
Oh, he did.
yes, because he's working on CANSA. Because that's a grant project that he had
Right.
EBH oversee.
But does he have paperwork for 290th?
Yes. But we
Yeah.
don't have an agreement in place.
Have you talked to him?
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to hire him to administrate it.
That's what I'm asking, if he could come in next week so we can visit with him about it.
can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I mean, I guess it'd be worthwhile to find out what it's gonna take to administer.
Have Tina and Steve, Vicky look into it, and then if there's some missing pieces, go ahead and bring Darren.
Or have him come in and, I mean, either way, you
Okay.
know.
How about combination of the two?
Just
We go
get
ahead
everybody
and
in the same
invite him
room.
in, but have Tina work with Steve and Vicky.
In the meantime.
Yep.
Okay.
It's fine with me.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to make sure.
We would not let anything slip through the cracks.
Well, that's why, we worked really hard to get that grant, and I do not want to lose it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, get him scheduled for next week?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Talking about road and bridge,
Yes.
are you still under that road and
Yes.
bridge? Okay. I had a phone call from Steve last week, and he was down marking for the blade patching that's going on to repair or finish up down that way. And just for a heads up, and I know there's a lot of roads all over in our county this way, that some of this blade patching we're gonna do is gonna put a patch over it. Down underneath of it, there's a lot of, like, this is on Old Mill, south of Peabody, from the county line to Peabody. We relayed that probably 10 years ago, overlaid that. And what I'm seeing, and I may be all wrong, but what I'm seeing is out there, when you see those low spots that's beaten out and alligator and for like 150 feet to 200 feet, maybe more, I'm thinking maybe that's some of the old overlay it's alligator cracked everywhere, and they're gonna come in and they're gonna patch over that. But that's what he was wanting to show me. He says, you know, Randy, if some of these blow out, it's nothing I can do. We need to get to the base of that. So I'm just telling you, and I know that Old Mill's not the only one. There's some other roads too that we're gonna be looking to do something major to for very long. If we get another year or two out of this blade patching line, we've got another year or two, but somewhere in here. But he just wanted somebody to see that, so I went out and worked with him for about half a mile and saw what he was looking at, what he was marking and stuff. And just want to give you all a heads up of.
Old Mill's in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, it is. And so, you know, I'm hoping this gets us by, but it's amazing. I spent out there for an hour and then drove some more besides that, counting cars and things.
Did they do any base work when they overlaid that the last time?
No, just overlaid it.
Because you can tell the bases fell out.
Yeah.
Multiple places.
Yeah, you drive it quite a bit, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Too many times.
Yeah, so anyway, just a heads up.
And there's a lot of miles of road already beyond for the blade patch.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already given up on some, but they're gonna have to be milled. There's just no way, unless you blade patch the whole miles and miles and miles.
Yeah,
So yes, you're exactly, we've hit our higher traffic roads, which is a good plan. But now we're gonna have to start attacking some of our other roads.
Yeah.
And it's not just gonna be blade patch, it's gotta be.
You know, it's pretty hard to tell my constituents, I can't get somebody out to just fill some holes. I'm not talking about blade patching.
Right, right.
Because, you know, we always had a hole filling crew forever in this county, and now we can't hire any college kids, you know?
Yeah, the worst thing is, if I get probably my most complaints is when they're out blade patching, not handling the roads. Letting the grass grow up on the windrows,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. That's usually where I can't tell them anything else other than they're blade patching.
They're all on blade patch.
You know, why don't we have somebody else blade patch? Just maintain the road.
That gets back to my statements about hiring out.
Question for
Yes,
the
Tina.
board. So, do you want to schedule an interview, for any of the applicants, or the applicant that you've already looked at for the Road and Bridge Director?
We haven't received any more applications.
Well, we have received some, like, inquiries, and we've sent them some, applications out, but I haven't been able to access and see if we have received any new ones, but I just didn't know if you want to, move forward with any of the
Look at
existing.
one that you give us, right, Tina?
Mhm.
Give us one, okay.
Yeah,
What about applicants for their other administrative?
as far as I
position?
know, no.
No.
So just keep collecting and wait to
Weren't we
interview? I just
talking
didn't know how
about
long you
having-
would wait.
Getting the league involved in that too?
I inquired about it, I don't
That's
think that
not
that's
their-
something they're gonna do.
That's
Yeah.
not their forte.
No, and I have advertised it, like, we're advertising it on Indeed, we've done it on the county website, we went through the record and did a whole big, thing statewide and spent like, and we haven't really got very much
So you got one or two now?
interest.
We have one.
We have one paper application that you've all looked at, we have some other online kind of inquiries, but when we sent follow-up
They didn't-
communication, they haven't, some of them haven't
so-
responded. There may be more now, but
We
like,
should be-
We should not expect a letter from the league telling us.
no,
Okay.
because I did check in with
Okay.
them right when you asked me,
Okay,
and they,
see, and I was still waiting for a
Are there
response
any,
from
are
them.
there any counties in Kansas, probably nobody would know, that share a road superintendent? I mean, that's probably not information that's out there, other than you would just find out.
that to a Chase
I think
County.
that-
I
It's
just
such
wondered
a
if we would, if
big-
there's a chance, if there was an opportunity to
Yeah.
contract with another county for a third of the time of their supervisor.
You might be onto something though. I know it's a big job, but just like I said, for your grants, if this one and this one are working together, you just wanna make sure they ain't working only for this one or only for that one.
Well,
But if
you
they're
know,
working
I-
together, it's a bigger,
It opens up, and I'm sure it opens up another can of worms, but we really have some pretty good road superintendents around in some of the contiguous counties we've got.
Okay. Any interest in interviewing the candidate?
What they've got. I think he's valuable.
Okay, we've got one interested in interviewing, anyone else interested? No, just leave the situation open.
Hopefully we can get one or two more in.
Commission decision is to leave it open.
okay.
All right, we have the zoning resolutions from Sharon, and I believe we're up to 15.
Yes.
Okay. So I would move resolution number 2023-15, resolution granting conditional use permit to establish a kayak rental business at 2607 J, Hillsborough, Kansas, with the following condition: CUP reviewed every 5 years for compliance, and following the rules and restrictions of above.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. Questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. And I would move resolution number 2023-16, resolution granting conditional use permit to establish short-term rental property at 3 Jerome, Marion, Kansas, with the, following all the rules and regulations established, that with the additional condition, CUP shall be reviewed every year for compliance, and the property shall maintain an annual registration with the county. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Galkey. Questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Okay.
Motion carried 4-1. Commissioner Garing opposed.
On that one, was ever, I didn't ask Sharon, but ever landowner beside that within 7 feet was notified, correct? Yeah.
Which at the lake is a lot of people.
Yeah, but that first one, you know, the first time that
Yes.
came out, there was quite a bit of comment on that
Yes.
first one. And I didn't hear any others.
Do you have anything else? Okay, any commission comments? If not, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Garing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried 5-0. We are adjourned.
Wow. A little